Okay, hello everyone. Stevo here with Stevo's Gaming Dungeon. Today I am going to be whipping together a quick guide on how to make money as a DM and getting paid for running online board games in general. So it doesn't really matter what you're playing, whether it's Warhammer 40K or D&D. People are always looking for experienced veterans to show them how to play, guide them on their journey, and referee their game so that playing is both fun and fair. It's a growing market that is ripe for investing your time into. That is to say, if you have the discipline to stick to it and make your hobby your job, you could get into this right now and make a pretty decent amount of money. In my case, it was with D&D, and I was able to make a few extra $100 a year on top of two jobs. And I was doing something that I already loved doing, which is running D&D 5th edition games. Now, I'm going to walk you through how I did it. This isn't the only way to do it, but I was pretty successful in doing so, and I highly recommend this strategy. Okay, so the first and most important rule is that you need to get a player base going. That means you need to do the grunt work right off the get-go. So when I first started, I was just a simple D&D player. I actually just stumbled across TaleSpire and I fell in love with it right away. And I was like, wow, where had this been in my whole life? So I went into the TaleSpire Discord, and me and some friends, we used to just go into like these voice chats here, like I am now, and we would just jump in and play games. And it got to a point where I had a lot of people wanting to play in games with me. So, long story short, I ended up creating a server on Discord. And that's what I mean by creating a player base is you need to at least have a few dozen friends who really enjoy playing with you, who really like your games, and they're fighting for seats. You know, they're fighting to get into your games. I don't mean fighting in a bad way. I just mean, you know, once you have that competition to get into your game, that's when it becomes lucrative. Okay, lucrative being the key word there. That's when you know you can finally start moving to the next level. Now, before you get too excited about money, the next step is going to be marketing yourself. Okay. Now, how you market yourself is completely up to you. There's lots of ways to do it. I did it through Patreon, for example. Having a good middleman to handle transactions is a good idea. So let's take a look here. So here's my Patreon. They give you the ability to create tiers, you know, all these different types of tools to market yourself with. It's essentially, that's what I'm really talking about. But there's other ways too. You could start smaller. You could just do like, you know, you could just do PayPal, however you want to do it. The next step is, and this is really important, is don't just ask for money like right from the beginning. That's a huge mistake. What you should do, you know, like I was saying earlier, you should build up that player base, and then when your seats at the table start to get competitive, bring in the people who show up the most, bring in the people that are the most active players, and then at the end of your game, you know, you can have a tip jar in it. That could be Patreon, PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, whatever app you use. And if you can just tell your players, okay, if you had a good time and you appreciate everything I did for you today, please, leave a tip in the tip jar, go here, leave me $1. Thank you very much. That's it. Real soft, easing your way into it. And I guarantee you, if you're a good DM and you have a good player base, you're going to have a couple of people who drop a couple dollars into your tip jar, and that's totally going to work at the beginning. And then after that, once that starts to take off, you can start offering early signups in advance. So the way I did it was I was very careful. This is a very touchy part of the process. You need to be really careful. So what you do is you got your tip jar that's already done. Now you're basically telling people in advance, okay, I'm going to have signups for my game on Thursday, for example. Let's say Thursday at 8 p.m. What I did was I created an advertisement so that within 24 hours before the game time, anybody could sign up. And it was first come, first served. I did this because it kind of helps cut back on people calling off on you, right? If everyone's really excited about your game and they're all rushing to sign up, the chances of them calling off within 24 hours are kind of low. So that's kind of a good way to do it. Now remember, this is all thanks to your player base that you've been building up over time. What I also did on top of that was I said, if you are one of my supporters, one of my Patreon members, or however you want to market yourself, you can reserve a spot in advance for a certain price. I kept it pretty low. I made it like $1, $3, $5, real low prices. And sure enough, people did it. They didn't want to have to deal with waiting for the ad, 24 hours before the game time. They were very happy to sign up in advance. And this was also good because when even if it's only $1, if they're paying, the chances of them calling off are much lower. Much lower. And the same goes to, like I said before, where if they're rushing to try to play for free, they only have 24 hours to sign up. That also lowers the chances of them calling off. You see what I'm saying here? So this is a very touchy middle process where you need to be really careful here. And that takes me to my next point. Okay? You should play frequently. Multiple games every week. It's tough work, I know. Especially, like, I have 2 jobs, man. I work 60 hours a week. But I still find time for D&D, but mainly because my second job, I'm a freelance writer. So I'm able to make my own hours. But there's some days where I work my ass off, and there's other days where I take time out of my busy schedule to make these games for people. And running multiple games every single week is going to increase your reputation quickly. It's going to increase your player amount. It's going to increase the money that you have coming in. Like, the benefits go on. And I realize that it's exhausting. And that's just part of what it is. Like, people think that playing games for money is going to be easy. It's not. It is the opposite. It's just like getting paid to do what you love to do kind of takes the fun out of it. And D&D or whatever board game you're playing is no exception. Okay? But that being said, if you have a strong will, you will still be able to have fun. Anyways, my point is, play frequently, run multiple games every week. If you only run 1 or 2 games a month, it's going to take forever for you to gain that recognition. It'll take you a couple of years where somebody could beat you in just a couple months. You see what I'm saying? You have to run those multiple games every week. Not to mention the fact, the more games you run, even if you only make a couple bucks per game, you're just leaving money on the table if you don't do that. You got to run multiple games every week. Even if you only make $3 a game, that's $3 versus $9. You could be making $9 a week running games for your friends and them just giving you tips in the tip jar, you know what I mean? So the more games, the better. Now, this next part ties into that, which is don't call off. Do not cancel your games. I don't care if you broke your leg or whatever extreme excuse that people always come up with to cancel games. I've heard every one of them, and I've given a couple myself. And yes, sometimes they're totally real. Accidents happen in real life. I totally understand that. But you know what I'm talking about. If you just don't feel like playing, you're not really in the mood, maybe you didn't get enough sleep, maybe you're hungover, maybe you have another game that's better, or maybe you just want to play the new Call of Duty that just came out. Hey man, this is your job. You need to take it seriously. You need to show up. And the reason you do is not just because everyone's going to be pissed if you don't show up, but that builds your reputation. And the more games that you have that you don't cancel over and over and over, week after week, people will really start to respect that. And that reputation goes way further than any sort of game style that you have in mind. You could be playing the coolest game that was ever made, but if you call off, that's all people will remember. That's it. That's all they're going to care about. So your number one job, even if you're the worst DM on the planet, if you show up, you're a pretty decent DM, right? You automatically get like a C plus, right? So you're not doing that bad. Okay, so if you're able to do those two things, you're going to start getting money in your tip jar. That stuff's going to start building up over time. The next step you want to do is promoting yourself. Okay, advertising is clutch. At first, it'll be done manually, by, like you're going to go on social media, you're going to go on Discord and create a server, you're going to go on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and whatever you need to do to get yourself out there. And that's going to be all manual at first. You're going to have to really go onto each one of these apps and make yourself known. You're going to need to utilize things like hashtags. You're going to need to understand the importance of replying to comments within a certain amount of time and giving genuine, relatable feedback or relative feedback, right? That's going to be a very, very big, important part of promoting yourself. And on top of that, so you create all these social media accounts, but let's take YouTube, for example. If you have a YouTube channel and there's nothing on it, it's not really going to do you much good. You need to start cranking out quality content that's relative that you can start sharing everywhere. So even if it's something like you describing your game or showing, how your games are played, going through the universe that you're playing in, whatever you need to do, you need to create that content that you can share throughout all your different social media accounts. So for me, like I'll create a YouTube video on teaching people how to use TaleSpire, and then all of that gets shared through all my other social media content. And it all starts to come back to you eventually. It all starts to kind of build up, and slowly over time, you get these people trickling in very slowly. Okay, and that takes us to our next point, which is also, this is kind of an old school tactic, but it still works. And that is hit the forums. So what I mean is create like a detailed ad showcasing your skill and requirements and post it on every related forum that you can find. So for example, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to want to be on dungeonsanddragons.com, D&D.com, every D&D related website across the web that you can find that has a forum. You need to put your ad in there. It's just advertising, like in the purest sense of the word. You also need to bookmark them and check on them to see if you're getting responses. So like, for example, I have my Reddit page bookmarked. I check Reddit every day to see if I get people, commenting on my Reddit posts about new members. And I'm always sending out invites through Reddit, It's not super often, but it's still multiple times a week. And don't ever downplay how important that is, because it's not just for, the purpose of bringing people into your games. It's also for bringing your presence online. So it's called SEO, search engine optimization, where you need to get those clicks, you need to get those searches generating towards your keywords, generating towards you and your brand. And the only way to do that is to get out there online with all these different social media accounts and all these different forums. Now, don't be a spammer. It has to be like relative to what you're talking about. But yeah, if you're careful and you choose the right places to put everything, dude, you're gonna make bank in a short amount of time, because you're putting in all that grunt work at first. And it does take a while. It does take a while, but eventually it will pay off. Which takes me to the next point, which is after you get some capital going. Let's say your tip jar is starting to, get some decent money, maybe, double digits every week. That's when you might want to take out like an ad on Facebook or something. Like, you want to pay for more promotion, basically, because that manual advertising that you've been doing is exhausting, and it does take a lot out of you, especially if you're like me and you're working 2 jobs. Dude, you find it hard to find time to refresh all these ads and constantly re-advertising yourself over and over. So paying someone to do that for you, Facebook ads are pretty cheap. They're not that expensive. You can get ads on, but it's not just Facebook. Like Twitter has them. Pretty much every social media outlet has some sort of ad that you can buy, and they make sure to tailor it so that it goes towards. They're not just going to send it to like everybody. They're going to send it towards people who have those keywords in their searches, who are looking for that kind of thing. So if you buy a Google ad, for example, and someone searches, your name and your game, your ad is going to pop up right at the top. That is definitely worth paying for. That is good money spent right there. That's when you're taking your game to the next level, though. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So we were talking about the tip jar, right? So after that starts to take off, the next thing you're going to want to do is get to a point where you start offering people paid games. Like now that they're already signing up in advance to reserve a seat in your game, obviously the next game that you make, you might as well just charge outright for it, because you already have this really good base that's paying money to play in your games. And that's why it's so important to really take good care of your brand during that transitional phase of going from the tip jar to people paying to reserve their seats to people just outright paying for your game. That's when you're at the next level. That's big, expensive stuff. And you need to take such careful care of your brand at that point. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, and then once you're at that level, that's pretty much it. I mean, here's some tips. You want to record your games and post them for new prospective players to see how you play and if they like your style. This increases the speed of your, quote, revolving door, end quote, of interested clients, because you're always going to have people leaving your games. Whatever, they have life come up, they can't play anymore, and you need to replace them. It's always a good idea to have that, revolving door spinning quickly of people coming in and out of your server. So, and here's probably one of the most important things of all of this is, once you start charging for your games, make sure you handle things professionally with clear contracts between you and your clients, including refund policies. And you should probably have a website and a dedicated email set up at this point for questions and concerns that people might have. And one thing that I used a lot, a buzzing Discord server, is, one that's like well moderated, and you have it set up. That's kind of its own undertaking. But basically, a Discord server is a good way to kind of handle all of this revolving door client stuff. However, having a website and a dedicated email, even if it's just a free, like, WordPress website, or Google has their own way of making websites now. Anything is better than nothing. You could honestly do the whole thing through a Reddit page or through a Facebook page. Like it's not hard. And that takes us to, it's not hard, but you should definitely take it seriously. Your brand is your business, and it's only as strong as the weakest link, and that link is you. You're the only one. Your brand is your business, and it's only as strong as, as you. And that's, I can't stress that enough. If you take it, it's like a machine. It's like an engine in a car. If you take good care of it, it'll run smooth for a good long time. And if you don't take care of it, it's going to blow up on you, and you're going to get smoke coming out, and it's going to stop working, and you're not going to know why. It's going to blow up in your face. That's not good. And my last tip, doesn't matter what game you're running, doesn't matter what what brand you're using. You need to be a good game master. Learn to adapt and keep players happy. Your job is to be dynamic and do whatever it takes to ensure all of your players are having a good time. This can be challenging. I was kind of stubborn at first, I liked things my way, and I didn't like being told to do things a different way. I quickly realized that I had to change that about myself. So yeah, long story short, folks, if you want to make money playing games online, or I should say hosting games online, then just everything that I went through this video. Step 1, make sure you got a good player base going. Step 2, market yourself. Step 3, be careful during the transition process. Step 4, never call off. Step 5, play games all the time. Step 6, promote yourself. Step 7, hit the forums, and so on and so forth. Just everything that I said, it's like a religion. You gotta commit. You gotta commit. Don't half-ass it. Don't go in if you're not sure you have the time or the energy. If you're too busy, it's probably not the best idea. I managed to do it, but it's because I don't have kids. I don't have children. I'm married, but I don't have any kids to worry about. So I managed to find time to do stuff like this. But that's just me. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope I catch you on the next video. I'm going to share a link to the guide here down in the description. So if you want to read the scripted version of this, go right ahead. All right, but thanks again, everyone. Catch you on the next one.